Hello again, everyone. It is Wednesday, so it's Linda and Alyssa back with you to talk about all topics related to workplace wellness, really to help you thrive, help us all thrive at work, just to bring these conversations to light, to share tips and strategies that you can start applying right away. And hi, Alyssa, good to see you again. I know you've had you've had a bit of an emergency, so you're not in your normal place, but I'm so happy that you're able to be here.
Thank you. Yes, a little bit of an emergency, but everything it's okay.
Good.
And I'm in another place, not my usual place, but I'm so happy I'm here and I'm sharing this next 15 minutes with you.
Great. Well, today we are talking about a topic which is actually a lot more prevalent than you might think, in that it is dysfunctional or toxic workplaces. And I'm sure you've worked with many clients who struggle, because of a toxic or dysfunctional workplace. I certainly have. I've experienced it myself. There's nothing worse than when you get up every morning knowing you have to go to work and you're dreading it. And you might actually love your job and maybe even have several people that you work with who you enjoy working with and want to be with. But there's sometimes it's just one person that can disrupt everything. And sometimes if that one person is an employee, sometimes even their manager or supervisor is scared to do anything about them. And sometimes it's the boss themselves. I used to work in a family-run company. Everybody was lovely there, but the boss was, I think he was bipolar. I don't know if he was diagnosed with that, but you never knew who was coming in the door when he came in. He could come in and just be so nice to everybody. And other days he could come in and just start shouting and yelling, and anybody who got in his line of sight would be targeted, and so everybody was walking around on eggshells, never knowing what version of him they were going to get. So it is hard to work in a place like that, when you feel you can't be yourself or you can't do your job properly. It's very stressful.
Yes, it's definitely very stressful, and it's a situation that it's more common than we think. I was looking at some of statistics as I was reading more about this topic, and it says that 1 in 5 people experience a toxic environment. So you may have had very good experiences, but it just takes one person to make you feel uncomfortable. And unfortunately, like you were saying, you could be in an environment where you like your coworkers, where you feel good, but if there is this manager that it's not making you feel comfortable and where things are not good, then it takes the majority of your energy. And that's something, yes, I've experienced it myself, not all the time, but it takes one. Like I said, it takes once. And yes, I've had some clients too that have had to make the decision to leave. And it's like that saying that says, you don't necessarily leave your job, but you leave your manager. And it's true in a way, because yes, it doesn't mean that everything is bad, but it only takes one thing. And if it's so regular that it messes up with your well-being, it's not sustainable. It's not healthy for you to stay in an environment like that. And it's tough, because sometimes we depend on that job because of our finances, our stability, but up to what point do we accept that? And when it's time to move on, to start thinking, okay, maybe it's time to make that decision and start looking for another job because this is interfering. And I've seen cases where people start experiencing a lot of physical illness, and yeah, when it gets to that point, it's not not sustainable. It's not, you shouldn't be accepting it.
Right. I know so many people who've left jobs that they really enjoyed and they really loved just because of one person, whether that was a manager or, you know, or just one person who made life so intolerable for them that they were forced to leave. And another aspect of this is I know several people where they've had the experience of being in a toxic work environment, and then they leave and they get another job, and the hope is that this is going to be better, but it ends up being the same or similar. And this can be a pattern. Now, I would say if that's happened to you and this is a recurring pattern, my recommendation would be to stop and look and ask yourself, is there something else I should be doing? Because sometimes life will put these situations in your way as a wake-up call to you to say, look, you're just coasting along doing this, you're not stretching yourself, you know, you're just staying in your comfort zone. Maybe you need to stretch out a bit and do something different. And so it's worth exploring that question and looking at that. And of course, not every time will you feel that you have to leave. Sometimes it's actually more beneficial for you to stay, because there are things you can learn about yourself. You can learn a lot from difficult people and difficult situations like that. If it becomes too intolerable and it's really affecting your health, then absolutely you might want to consider leaving. But I think one of the, I don't want to say benefits, but one of the good things that can come out of something like this is that it forces you to really pay attention to yourself. If you're in that kind of environment, you have to step up your level of self-care really significantly. I have one client who, she's retired now, but she used to work in a very stressful environment, and she was the only person who did what she did. So she didn't have anybody she could really go to. She was just kind of on her own, no support around her. And she said that to get through her days, the thing that kept her going was she would do yoga before she went to work, and she would do yoga when she came home from work. And she found that really helped to center her, to bring her energy back to herself. Sometimes she would even do some yoga stretches at work if it was getting, so stressful, or she would go for a walk, just get outside or do something like that, or maybe sit in a meditation for 5 minutes or something like that. But you have to learn how to step up your level of self-care so that you don't get pulled down by this dysfunction and this toxicity in the workplace.
Yes, that's very true. I remember when I was in this type of environment, I always make the effort to step out of the office during lunchtime. And luckily, I was able to go to a place that was in front of a lake, and I could take my lunch there and disconnect and not be in the office the whole time. So it's important to take these breaks and to be aware of your needs, to separate yourself from this type of environment, to recharge, to regulate yourself, because you are more exposed to being on an alert mode, on being, you don't know what to expect, how things are going to be. So it's important to, like you were saying, your client was doing yoga before, after. You would need more to engage in this type of practices even more. That I wanted to say when you were saying that if these situations keep repeating, it's also a sign that there are things that need to be explored. And for me, for example, it was an opportunity to build on my personality, on my character, to question things and not take everything and accept it. And once I started to do that, of course, the other person didn't feel comfortable when I did that. But I felt proud of myself for doing it, because in the past I wouldn't do it. I would just remain quiet and just keep on with my work, and that's it. But But I think that's important because you need to also talk about it. You need to express what's going on, and I know sometimes it's not safe, and maybe it's not the right time, or it depends on the situation. In my case, I had to escalate the issue twice, and unfortunately, once I was heard, and both of them, both times, but not much was done about it. So I know that could be frustrating when when they know that something is going on in the company, but they don't do well. I don't know if they're doing it. That can be very frustrating, and that's another way to really think about it. Is this the type place? Is this the right place for me? Do I want to be in a place where this type of things accepted, or where they don't really do much about it? Because it is unacceptable. I don't think any work environment or any place should promote any type of toxicity.
No, it's so true. I remember one job I had, and I loved the job and I loved the people I work with, but our boss, it was a small group of people I worked with, and our boss just, he had to micromanage everything. He wanted to know what we were doing, where we were, at all times. And it really impacted our ability to perform our jobs really effectively. And I remember that every morning, I'm not a confrontational person. I just was very quiet, never said anything. But every day I would have to sort of prepare myself to go in there, because it was just so stressful. It's almost like I was putting armor on, it was like, now I have to go in and deal with this. And I remember one day I had to go to another one of our offices, which was only like a 10-minute walk away. And so, because I had to get pick up some information from there, and I told him I was going there. He knew I was going. Everybody else knew I was going. And so I was over there collecting this information, and he called and spoke to one of the people I was with and demanded that I get back immediately. I tell you, I am not a confrontational person. I was so mad. I stormed into his office and I said to him, "How dare you ever do that to me again?" And I don't know how I did that. Today I would handle it very differently. And at that time I was thinking in my mind, I thought, yeah, he might fire me for this, and I really don't care, because I can't put up with this anymore. And you know what? He didn't fire me. He actually responded really well after that. And I think he gave him, I don't know, maybe even respected me a little bit more. I don't know. You shouldn't have to do that. And like I said, if it was now, I'd handle it very differently. I wouldn't need to get angry, and I would look at and manage my energy much more effectively in that situation. But I really believe that experience, the benefit to me was I had to learn how to stand up for myself and not be pushed around in that way. And it really taught me that lesson very well. So sometimes there's a purpose to what we're experiencing, which is why I think it's always important to step back and ask yourself, what is it that I need to learn from this situation? Because there's something here for me. If we make it all about that person's doing this, or the company should be doing that, and it's all about them, and we're giving our power away to that, instead of that, if you turn it around and say, okay, I'm in this situation, what can I do? What can I learn? What do I need to know? And that's taking your power back. And maybe there's nothing you can do, but what you can do is manage yourself, manage your energy. And if there are things that you need to do, just like the person with the yoga, before you go to work or after you've been to work, to really help to reset your energy, maybe that's it. Maybe you need to learn self-care. Maybe you need to learn to stand up for yourself. I don't know, but I think there's always something you can learn from a situation like that.
Definitely. I think there is always. And sometimes we're in a place where we feel we don't, and are so upset and we blame it on the other part. But when you have some time to just quiet your mind and just do whatever routine you like to do to regulate yourself, and if you don't know what to do, start getting into it, because that's going to really help you get more in tune with yourself, your emotions, and to learn how to manage this type of situations, because it's part of life.
Yeah.
Whether your workplace, whether it's a family member, whether it's whoever, there will always be times where you're going to be challenged. So it's
Mm.
important that we learn how to deal with these situations, and we don't become victims of it.
Yes, yes, that's so true and very well put. And I think, sometimes you can look around at what's happening in your workplace and you can see maybe the inefficiencies of it. You can see how maybe the company is making money, losing money because of what they're doing, and how things could be much more efficient and effective and healthier and better. But the thing I would say is if you have ideas like that and nobody's listening to you, nobody wants to listen to you, the senior management, then that dysfunction is coming from there. And you cannot care more about the company and what's going on than they do. And because that you'll constantly be stressed. Why does this keep happening? Why don't they address this? I think I'm just, Eva. Why don't they address this? Why do they allow this to keep happening? Well, if that's something you have no control over, but it's bothering you, then look at the fact that it's bothering you and what is it bringing up for you. You can only work on what's in front of you. If it's something you can't control, then you have to let it go, even if it seems completely ridiculous to you. I can remember years ago, one company my husband worked for, and some of the things they were doing and the money they were spending, we would have conversations about it and say, well, this seems crazy. How are they doing this? Sure enough, the company went bankrupt, not long after that. But could we control anything other that? No, we couldn't. So all you can do is take care of yourself, monitor your energy, practice self-care, and focus on what's good about where you are. If there are people you love working with, really focus on that. If you love the work that you do, despite everything else that's going on, focus on that. Look for what's good about where you are instead of focusing only on what's not good. And the more you focus on what's good, I think that helps you to attract, if you like, more things that feel good. It may not change the situation, but it might change how you respond to the situation, which will help you feel better.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. I was just wondering, oh gosh, I think we're out of time again. But just quickly, since you you have experience of being in HR, what does somebody do? I don't know if you have any thoughts on this. Sometimes I hear people say that I go to HR and I've complained, or I've, told them about the situation and not, they're not listening to me, or nothing is done about it. Do you have any thoughts on that? Is there anything people can do?
Yeah, I've in my years of HR, I've seen both sides. Even me as an HR person going to my HR, it was difficult at one of the companies because it was a very tricky situation where this person was needed in the position. This person wasn't as a good manager probably, and it wasn't just me complaining. And even though we raised the issue, I believe nothing was done about it. That's very unfortunate. And it talks a lot about the company's internal policy. But there has been other situations where concerns were raised and they were taken very seriously. And we conducted investigations, and decisions were made from those investigations, all type of situation. So that's how it should be. These type of concerns, complaints should be always taken very seriously. And every employee should be given the opportunity to express what they are experiencing, what they are going through, and then involve the affected parties and also conduct an interview so that the issue can be discussed and actions can be taken. Because if you go and complain and nothing is done, then your reputation as human resources, as the manager, it's going to be damaged, because people are not going to trust you. And when more serious issues come, then it's going to be even more difficult. So that's very important. I know not every company has an HR department and have a manager taking on that responsibility, but it's a risk. It's a risk to the company if these issues are not taken seriously. And really convert into something bigger that eventually damages the reputation of the company. It can even turn into bankrupt, like you were saying, so many other.
So, well, and I think even if you don't have an HR department that you can go to, or if you do but you don't feel they're taking it seriously, I think it's helpful to have someone to talk to, and it may not be somebody within the company, not just to complain and about things, but to just, sometimes you just need to let it out. And if you don't have anybody to do that with, I would do journaling just to get it out of you. And if you have a particularly frustrating day, at the end of the day, write it out, all the frustrations, because you get it physically out of your body, and that will help. And I could talk about this for a long time, but I know we're out of time. So thank you, Alyssa, and thank you for being here when you've got your emergency going on. Next week, I believe we will be talking about, we're talking about how to be positive, how to take care of yourself, how to stay in your power in situations like this. How do you maintain that? That's what we're going to be talking about next week, because sometimes it feels like there are forces at work trying to pull you down all the time. So how do you maintain this level of your energy, really, and positivity? So we'll cover that next week. Thanks again for being here, Alyssa. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.